By 2019, Sri Lanka's tourism sector was already suffering. The Easter bombings had scared off Europeans who would holiday in the island nation. Then came the Wuhan virus. When borders closed, tourists completely stopped arriving. And so did the revenue from tourism. Sri Lanka depends on tourism for 13% of its GDP. Tourists are also a source of foreign currency. In 2020, Sri Lanka managed to welcome just 173,000 tourists. In 2018, the number was 2.3 million. You see the gap. By 2021, Sri Lanka's tourism revenue was down to $2.8 billion, as against $7.5 billion in 2019. The Wuhan virus also hit remittances. Lankans abroad stopped sending money. So late 2021, the revenue from tax had fallen. Agriculture production, which accounted for 8% of the GDP, had also fallen. Tourism revenue had fallen, so had remittances. And to top it all, there was a raging pandemic, and foreign agencies were not lending money to Sri Lanka. What did Colombo do? It turned to its neighbors. In June 2021, Bangladesh loaned Sri Lanka $200 million. In February 2022, India lent $500 million. Sri Lanka could not sustain. In March, Gotabaya Rajapaksa devalued the Sri Lankan rupee. The idea was to encourage remittances and qualify for a loan from the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. But as the Sri Lankan rupee plunged against the dollar, the people's purchasing power took a plunge too. Today, $1 is equal to 326 Sri Lankan rupees. The currency has fallen 32% since the beginning of this year. Back home, prices have soared. Inflation is up 30.2%, meaning the price of food has increased by more than 30%. A coconut that would previously cost 50 Lankan rupees now costs 91 rupees. Prices of onions have gone up from 80 to 158 Lankan rupees for a kilo. The price of rice has increased 93%. Chicken costs 55% more. Lentils 117%. So there is soaring inflation, huge piles of debt, bleeding foreign reserves, and a tanking currency. Everything that could go wrong with the country's economy has gone wrong with Sri Lanka.
Sri Lankan Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has told the country's military to do whatever is necessary to restore order. After protesters stormed the parliament, a state of emergency was declared after President Gotabaya Rajapaksa fled the country following months of mass protests over the island's economic crisis. Protests started in the capital, Colombo, from the beginning of April and spread across the country. People have been struggling with daily power cuts and shortages of basics such as fuel, food, and medicines. In Sri Lanka, inflation is running raging hot at more than 50% currently. The country doesn't have enough fuel for essential services like buses, trains, and medical vehicles. And official says it doesn't have enough foreign currency to import more. The lack of fuel has caused petrol and diesel prices to rise dramatically. Wow. Words like this makes my hair stand up. This is, by the way, this is an article from Reuters. In late June, the government banned sales of petrol and diesel for non-essential vehicles for 2 weeks. Sales of fuel remain severely restricted. Schools have closed and people have been asked to work from home or remote to help conserve supplies. So what happens next? Sri Lanka is unable to buy the goods it needs from abroad, and in May it failed to make an interest payment on its foreign debt. For the first time in history, failure to pay debt interest can damage a country's reputation, with investors making it harder for it to borrow the money it needs on international markets. This can further harm confidence in its currency and economy. For now, this is some information. We know this. But let's get more information. Editor, roll clip. Fair use.
struggle, and at the end, we will make the full sales happen.
Riot police have the gas, riot police have the water cannon. But the people of Sri Lanka have the numbers, and they've had enough of queuing like this for fuel, of 50% inflation, of endless shortages of energy, food, medicine, and all of it, people say, the result of the government's economic bungling.
I work one day and stand in the queue for 5. That's why I want to get rid of the president.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa hanged in effigy in the streets. Social media footage appeared to show the presidential motorcade speeding away from the palace. The same vehicles later seen crossing the apron at Colombo's International Airport. Someone else filmed porters apparently running what's claimed to be the presidential baggage onto a naval vessel for the voyage to safety. The Gulf seen as a likely destination. Leaving the presidential palace storm.
Wow. Hey guys, it's Jose, your regular Joe Blow again, keeping an eye out and my ears open to news that will domino affect us. I'm going international, guys. I'm keeping an eye on emerging markets and abroad, also the Eurozone, because we are hand in hand since we are the world's reserve currency. Guys, it affects us, guys. Do your own research. As always, prepare to get prepared. Remember, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. I will continue to bring you more information as we move forward in these historic times. Thank you guys for sticking with me to the end. Stay free.
It ain't hard to tell. I excel.